Alright class, let's go ahead and go over lab number 4. So we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of a Linux system administrator. So we're working for the IT department. It's a cybersecurity firm, so we have to create a folder called Secure Tech and put some subfolders and directories in there. So our team is responsible for managing sensitive client files. So we're going to have to set the right user groups, permissions, create those users as well, right, to make sure that only authorized people can access those directories and also have the correct level, right, of access to those directories, whether they can read, write, or execute. Remember, we'll go over execute more in some of the following weeks. So first, you're going to create a main directory. We're going to do this in the serve directory. So remember, we watched a video about all the different directories in Linux. Well, serve is one that we typically use for making files accessible to the entire system. So when we want to share files across users or different services, usually we stick it inside the serve directory. So we're going to make this a little bit more realistic. So you're going to create a secure tech folder inside the serve directory. You can just do a cd into serve. So for example, you could do cd serve, cd/serve, and then you're in the serve directory. Here you can see I already started it. I made the secure tech folder. So that's how you can get into the serve directory. Just cd/serve. That'll get you there. Inside that folder, once you create the secure tech folder, you create 2 more inside of that folder. So make sure to cd inside of secure tech before making these next 2 folders. So it's going to be client records and the reports folder. So 2 new directories or subdirectories or subfolders, right? All synonyms. Some command hints. Remember, you can cd serve, and then you're going to make the directories with sudo. Remember, if you're going to be creating directories, you're going to probably need sudo access, right? Since we haven't given the appropriate permissions for those files. Alright, so let's see. So we're going to take a screenshot of the command output. So just to confirm, right, that you created the client records and reports, make sure you execute the correct command. Remember, which command lists the files and folders in a directory. So make sure you're in secure tech and serve secure tech, or you could always pass it in the arguments, right, the entire path, and make sure to list all the files and folders. There's one command that does that. Alright, so create user groups and users. And just a reminder, we're using commands from all the weeks, right? Not just from this week. Alright, so create user groups and users. So create a user group named Secure Tech Users. So that's going to be the new group where we're going to add some new users. And then you're going to give them access to the Secure Tech directory. Remember, you can do this through the chown, right? Chown's going to give the right permissions. And then create 2 users called Alice and Bob. Remember which one we use for adding new users. Should give you some prompts, right, to give their name, the password, and some information on them, room number, phone number, etc. Just like we did in the demo. So yeah, create 2 new users called Alice and Bob, and then make sure you add them to the Secure Tech Users group. Which one is to modify the users groups? Modify the users groups. A little hint in there. Alright, so then set the permissions. You got to set the ownership of Secure Tech folder. Usually we give the 7, right, to the owner, so that's the first 7. What's the number that we're going to give so that the Secure Tech Users group gets read and execute permissions? Which number would that be? And then for the third number, you could just stick with a 0. It doesn't really matter which number you put there. Actually, I'm going to say go with the 0 because then it's going to mess up some of the other permissions if you give 2 wide permissions for the third number. So your third number should be 0. So 7, some number, up to you to figure out from the slides in the lecture, and then a 0 for the last one. Here's your hints for setting the group ownership for Secure Tech. You're going to use chown and then chmod, and then the 3 numbers to set the actual level of permissions. Remember, it's going to be read and execute, but not write for the Secure Tech users group. So for that second number, which one gives read and execute, but not write? Alright, so last thing is we're going to test those permissions so you can log in as one of the new users. Very easy to do that. We do cover that in the slides. You can just do that by running an SU dash and then the username. When you don't put the username right, it'd be root. So for the example we did in the lecture in the demo, SU/student. You always got to remember the password you made. So QWER1234. And now I'm logged in as student. There you go. So you can log in as Alice or Bob. Doesn't matter which one, since they should have the same permissions. So then you're going to verify that you can read from the Secure Tech directory. Don't forget, because you made changes, make sure you reboot your computer, right, or your virtual machine. You could do a sudo reboot to do that. Now I'm not going to be able to do that from here. Let's see, QWER1234. Because student is not in the sudo file, so if you're going to reboot from the command line, make sure you do it from your original VBox user, whatever username you have, or you could just do machine reset and then log in as Alice or Bob. Remember, 2 ways to reboot the system: GUI or command line. So remember, if you're going to verify, you got to reboot your system first. In fact, I might put that in there. Let's see. I'm going to put make sure to reboot your VM before verifying the new group user and group change. Otherwise, you won't give the VM a chance to refresh, right, and make those changes active. So now verify that you can read from the Secure Tech directory. So which commands can we use for reading, right? That's going to be from the lecture, right? I kind of briefly mentioned which commands you can use to read. So read is essentially, hey, let me look inside the directory. Which commands can you do to do that? It's actually the same one. I'll give you the clue. It's the same one that you run here for this screenshot. You can use that one. And then create a file. Which command is for creating a file? So that's on you. See if you can remember it from the slides. Remember, you could always use ChatGPT. You can ask it, hey, what's a write to create a file which should fail since this requires write permissions. Yeah, so which command do you use for creating a file? You can figure out from the slides. Again, you can use ChatGPT and say, hey, what's a write command, right? What's a command where I'm writing to a directory? But we cover it in the slides. It might be easier if you just, use the one I went over in the demo or in the slides. I'm not sure if I do any writes in the demo. So once you do your read and write commands, make sure you take a screenshot showing that the read command was successful and the write command failed. So in order for you to get full points, you got to have both screenshots, and it's got to be one of them successful. The read should be successful, and the write should be failed when you try to create that file. Remember, creating and modifying files is what we call write permissions. So in order to get all the points, you got to have your screenshots, and they have to have the correct output. All right, so that's it for lab number 4. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you need more time for X, Y, and Z reason, just reach out before the deadline. You can always schedule office hours on the class homepage. Let's see. Remember here, virtual office hours, meet with Professor Byres. You can do that from our homepage. So it's under course resources right there. My YouTube channel, and there's also the class textbook, just in case you're curious. That's it for this week, this week's lab. Yeah, like I said, just reach out if you need anything from me.